Good afternoon. It's January 2nd, 2024. And today we had really just a sideways day. But what happened in the overnight was we sold off heavily, and that created a gap. And we went sideways with a downward bias until about 7:30. And then we rallied to close the gap. And then we had a nice sell off again. Um, of about 32 points, and then prices rally back up to the high. So really just a range day. You can see, I think the reason for this leg down in the overnight was just making uh, a measured leg, because we really only went a little bit further than that. I think like 6 or 7 points further than that before just going sideways. So that's how I saw it. We'll check out the price action. So very heavy selling in the overnight. You can see a nice trap right where that price level was. It bounced a little bit and then they kept selling. And so you have a break. If I draw that, I didn't draw it, but you can very easily see break of this channel, move to a new low, and that's when we just started going sideways. And I do believe this is the channel. If you look at it on a higher time frame, it just looks like we found support down here. So I do think that this is how you draw it. I'm not going long in any of this, and I think this is a reasonable place to sell right here. You can see some buying come in. You get some support down here, and you get a second entry right here. But this to me looks like a few inside bars. And we make this new low, and then you get this move, which is basically, it's not a perfect double test, but it looks like a double test. So I think there's reason to consider that. But then we find support again right at this price level, and it bounces. And the market opens, and we get this leg up, probably trapping a bunch of people going long, and then we go sideways. And we get a bit of a sell-off, and it's pretty, you could feel pretty confident that we're gonna test this level of support. So I'm gonna mark this second entry short, because this kind of looks like a double test as well. If you draw that line a little steeper. So I think that's reasonable. It's a second entry short. It looks like we tried to go higher once, twice. So it's a failed second entry long. And although it's sideways, the bias is heavily down. So I think that's reasonable, but it is aggressive. So anyway, it does sell off, and we come down and we form a new low. But it goes sideways pretty much immediately once we form this level of support. Comes back down, tests it, and you do get a second entry long. But I felt like it was still a little too early to go long. So I think you got to be careful. But anyway, it rallies and it tests this level of resistance, and you could have this channel, this broad slightly downward channel, drawn by now. So that gives you some context. And so when we sell off a little bit, test this midline, come back, you get one test, two tests, and we come down here, and this looks like a double bottom, first entry, second entry. You could consider this. Only problem is that signal bar is not great, but I like the area. Unfortunately, it might have scared some people out of the trade right here. Um, but that's why I've been leaning more towards swinging anyway. Because let's say you jump in here, put your stop right here, you get a nice move. Let's say you jumped in right there. Uh, if you put your target like close to the bottom of the channel, you could have gotten an 8.5 point move. So it bounces right here, and then we start to rally. And I think that this is the rally that, yeah, this is the rally that closes the gap. So we form this support here. You get confirmation here. And then we bounce again. And you get a first entry failed, second entry short. That's also a second entry long. It's near the trend line. It's near the EMA. So you might consider this one. And then what I believe happens is we're kind of just finding resistance at the top of the channel. It could also be that this is a midline, though. You can see it looks pretty good as a midline. So either way, it doesn't really matter. But find some resistance here, sell off. This forms a level of support. And you do get a second entry long here, but with that doji, you got an outside bar. You got to be super careful that this big doji. So I don't think you want to go in, especially long, with the bias being down. But it does end up closing the gap, and then it sells off pretty strongly. So you get this spike and channel down. That soon fades away. Find support at the opening price, and then we go sideways a little bit. And you do get this triple test of this level of resistance. So technically it is a second entry short. Technically it's like a double or triple test. Big bearish bar. You might consider that, and you can see a lot of people like that. And so we come down here, you get some buying here, two-legged correction, sells off again, and you get a breakout pullback. If I think if you had if this made a new high, I would say sell this. So I mean, depending on your chart, I think you should sell this. And we continue to go lower. And then we find some support and just bounce. And you do get a first entry, second entry at the top of this channel. So it's against, you know, it's not going with the trend technically, but with the bias being down all day, and that being at the top of the channel, and you have room to the low of the channel to scalp out, I think that's a reasonable scalp. But then it bounces and just rallies until the end of the day. So could you take this one right here? Yeah, you could take this one. But look, we made these new lows. Yeah, so from here we just rallied until the end of the day. And that was at 12:47. So really you shouldn't be taking trades at that time anyway. So that's how I saw it today. Here's how it looks on the daily chart. So we could be caught in this range, and this could just be acting as a midline. But we'll just have to wait and see. So I hope everyone had a good day. I'll be back tomorrow.